Hey, everybody. I've got Ben here with me today. I'm so excited to introduce you to him. And one of the reasons I wanted to have Ben on here is, number one, he's just, again, one of my favorite people that I've been able to work with. But I do say that about a lot of my clients because a lot of awesome guys find me to work with me. I'm lucky that way. But yeah, you're Ben, definitely one of my favorites. And also, it was just such a joy with Ben. It was extra tangible to see just what can happen with this whole coaching process when someone really buys in and really dives in, not with like this huge hustle effort level, just like really trust the system and the process. And it was just amazing. It was cool. I loved being able to see that happen for you live action along the way, and then you come and share those things with me in our sessions. And anyway, so I wanted to give you guys a taste of what Ben has been able to create for himself in such a powerful, awesome way. And something I love about Ben is he brings lots of joy and love and passion to this process. I think you'll get that sense too as you hear him talk. And hopefully he inspires you the same way he does me with what he shares. So I am going to ask him some questions, but before we dive into that, is there anything you want to say to introduce yourself, Ben, or just say hi?
Yeah. I am just a normal guy, and I remember if you remember when I did my like the initial trial call with you, I was like
Yeah,
pretty skeptical, and yeah, it was right when we started talking, we just clicked. I felt like,
yeah,
and I felt I'm pretty like into my intuition, my feelings, and right when we started talking, I just felt, and I wrote it down. I was reading through my notes yesterday of like my entire process with you,
oh,
and
cool.
I put a star next to like a if it feels like revelation or intuition, and I said Danny's a good guy. I'm like I like this guy.
And that resonated true with you. Danny's a good guy.
Danny's a good guy. But yeah, I yeah, the whole experience was awesome with you, man. Nothing
Yeah.
but good things to say.
Oh, awesome. Cool. I just felt the same. That goes both ways. All of that, what you just said. Definitely just clicked, huh? Good fit. And that's what's fun about this. When it is a good fit, we don't ever force that in those calls. Like we just kind of see, is it a good fit? And when it is, it can be just really magical and powerful and just really
Yeah,
fun.
man.
See where you can get with this stuff. So I always had a lot of fun coaching you. So
Yeah, it was great.
okay, so let's dive into some questions. Let's start kind of with where you were when we met. I just want to hear like what was your biggest challenge or obstacle that you ran into prior to the program or the coaching that we did together, and how did that challenge make you feel?
Yeah. Biggest problem for sure was pornography and masturbation. And then as we kind of got into things, each session, then it was fear. I think lack of like faith in myself and in my future. I had some issues with like my past with my family. And then a resonating thing was like a lack of confidence. And so all of those things. Um, but yeah, I initially reached out because of pornography and masturbation, and I guess like the shame that I felt. But it seemed like every week that we were like digging something else up and then turning those things into strengths throughout the process, which was
Yeah,
really cool. But you asked how I felt about it beforehand.
yeah. How did it
Um,
make you feel?
yeah,
This challenge.
oh, the challenge, like, and I mean, you talk with lots of people, but I just remember feeling that like pornography and masturbation, I hated it when it was brought up. Like I hated it.
Yeah,
Um, and I was like so ashamed of myself because I know that like I believe that it's bad. I didn't like how it made me feel. I felt like it was this invisible boogeyman that would always come out to get me. And I remember telling you like I was scared to sleep at night because I would wake up with like strong urges, and I felt like that was completely out of my control, and I felt like it was completely random. So I
mm,
felt like I was in a I was doing my best. Um, I was trying like the best that I could with the tools that I had. And I could honestly say that I was trying, but I didn't have 100%. confidence that I could overcome this stuff. I thought it would always stick with me, and I would it that thought just sucked. And it seemed like there are people in my family that struggled with it as well, and we've talked about that. And it was just kind of the things like once an addict, always an addict. Like this is kind of like it was like a helpless approach to it with like friends and family. It's like, oh, it's all around us. Like, like pioneers when they came across the plains, they didn't have to deal with this stuff, but it's just what we have to deal with now. So that's like it seemed like that was the general idea or approach. Or even like I went to church, and I remember one of the our bishopric came in and said, "Hey, everyone here's looked at pornography, and I'm sure everyone's masturbated." This is our elders quorum. It's not like Sunday school, but they say like, yeah, it's something that our generation just has to deal with. And I just remember thinking like, there has to be a better way to this. But I was kind of going at it on my own.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember. This brings back memories. Okay. So then what would you say as you started getting like diving into this process with me? What was different about this coaching experience compared to other things you've tried? Because like you said, you're the kind of guy you were already trying on this for quite
Yeah.
some time.
And I had some success. I remember like you
Yeah.
asked me like when's the longest time you've had without this, and I had gone like a couple of years without looking at pornography or masturbating, and so like I knew that it was in me, but I was scared that it would always be with me.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Okay. So then what would you say as you started diving into this was different about this experience compared to the other
I
things that you've
remember,
been trying?
yeah, I remember you said um, it was a kind of like a different approach, and it wasn't so much like you talked about like tools like in the thought model, and we'll get into that later, like the tools that can help me. But I remember you said um, that imagine if your life could be so good that you don't even need it. So it's like your life could be, and I got like I feel like my little spark of like that feeling, like that truth that resonates, like um I feel it right now in my heart, like, and I call it like this spirit, or you can call it truth or vibrations or whatever. But you said like imagine your life could be so good that you don't even need it. And I I wrote that down, like capitalized it, and I'm like, man, like if he says that, and like I believed it 100%. And so for the biggest thing that was different, like that, I just trusted you, like, and I loved you, like I just felt like you were my brother right from the get go, and I felt like you understood me and you loved me, and it was like no problem with you. You're like not cocky, but you're like confident with like, hey, like your life's gonna be so much better. So I knew that you'd gone through it, and I trusted you. But it was also I just felt so much hope from like our initial meeting, and then like the first session. Whereas like before I'd gone to like the the meetings, like the 12-step meetings, or gone and confessed to the bishop and worked with the bishop, or whatever. Um, and it's not that I didn't feel hope from those meetings. I did, but it was a little bit more depressing, especially with like the 12-step meetings, because it seemed like any energy that I had was completely gone after the meeting. And
Ugh.
I felt like with you, any energy that I brought in like amplified, and like I was pumped up after. I mean, sometimes we had heavy sessions, so I need to take like an hour to kind of recharge my batteries. But like the result of every session, I just felt energy, and I felt confidence.
Yeah, yeah,
So I
that
think
makes
that's what was different. That's what was different.
okay. A little question on top of that is you said some of the sessions sometimes were heavy before you kind of found that amplification of energy. What made you motivated to go towards that heavy stuff anyway along the way?
Nothing to do with me, man. That was all you. That was like questions that you asked, because I remember like you kept asking me questions, and I was like, it was questioning my entire like framework about my life, and you just kept digging, and it wasn't like they were hard questions in the sense, because to answer, because I had never thought about it before, and so I had to take some time, like, geez, like why do I think that way, like why have I interpreted that way. And so it was, I think it was just like your coaching, like I mean, shout out to you. It's like your skills of like bringing that out of me. Because I've gone to like other therapists and stuff, and I've said kind of similar things, and we definitely didn't go that far. And like, I mean, I don't know if this is the, I mean, this probably doesn't have much to do with it, but do you remember when you had me like go back to? It was like one of the best experiences of my life, so I have to share it.
Let's hear
But my dad was a frosty bugger, and I remember you had me like go back to my childhood and give myself advice as I was a child. And I realized like in that moment, like going back and like kind of reframing that and like talking to myself as my adult self. Um, yeah, and that was like one of the times I was crying talking with you, but I realized like the person that I become now is the person that I always wanted to become.
it.
And that was so powerful for me because I just didn't realize that at all. I'm like so hard on myself, and then that kind of like melted away all like the shame and whatever I had for myself, and I like that's when I like truly loved myself.
So awesome. I remember that when you talk about that. I
Yeah.
remember that. And that was like a really healing experience. And
Oh
I
yeah.
felt honored to be a part of it. I do ask those kind of questions. That's kind of what I'm known for. But Ben used his power to, you did, you used your power to go to play ball. And you don't have to go anywhere you don't want to go in these sessions, but you went where you felt able to go, and you experienced powerful shifts and change and healing.
Yeah.
So kudos to you on that side of it. Um, Take us to, maybe you already talked about this, or maybe there's something you want to add. Is there like a moment when you realized this process was actually working to solve your problem that you came to me with?
Yeah. I mean, I think there are like little things along the way, but one one like strong moment. This was like earlier on when we started a meeting, and I think I told you, and I've already said this already on this interview that like I was scared because I would go through like a stretch of time where I wouldn't even think about pornography or masturbation. It was like an afterthought for me, but then I was scared. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night, like 3 in the morning, and I'd have like a strong urge to look at porn or masturbate. Um, and I was doing like you taught me the thought model, and so I was like realizing like I'm more in control. Like it's I just need to like change my thoughts to change my feelings. And I was lying in bed and I woke up and I'm like, ah, crap, here it goes. And it was like 2 in the morning, strong urge to look at porn and masturbate. And I just sat in my bed, and then I was just trying to like fight it and resist it, which I know doesn't work. And I went and got my phone and I started typing in something to like a pornography site. Um, and then I remember as I was typing, I just changed the thought and I said this, and I remember thinking, I don't exactly remember what my thought was, but it was, and I'm still single by the way, so I'm not married, and so I remember thinking like, I want to like these feelings I want for my wife, I don't want for this stupid screen. Like it's just and you know I said like there's just pixels. Like this has no power over me. Like why am I scared of this? Like I'm in control. And I just remember the thought that was introduced to me, and I feel like that my goosebumps, like that feeling right now has come back. I was like, I want these feelings for my wife. Like that's what I choose. That's what I want. And I remember like right when I felt that, like right when I had that thought, then it changed my feeling. And I put away my phone. I went back and like put it in the charger, went back to sleep, and I slept perfectly fine. I woke up that next day, and that was like I think that was a Sunday night because we had our sessions on a Monday, and I remember I was so pumped, and I remember telling you, I was like, "Holy crap, man!" I was like that's like the hardest situation for me. I felt like I had ultimate craving, like ultimate whatever, and then I turned it off, and then I felt like a mini Mario got the mushroom.
Okay, so I
So
could see.
that's when that was early on in the program, and I was like, holy crap, this is real. Like this stuff works.
Yeah, so then can you just tell me a bit more on that? Like some guys will hear that and they'll be like, "Oh, just change the way you think while you're having that craving in the middle of the night." Like they'd be like, "I've tried that. I've tried to focus on I want to direct this toward my wife." And they might be like, "That's like I've tried that and it didn't work." What would you say allowed that to actually work and create lasting changes for you? How did you create lasting and real change through that
Well,
process?
yeah, I think a few things. Like I really practiced the thought model, and I wrote down like any of those feelings that I any situation where I was uncomfortable or I felt cravings or whatever, I was practicing the thought model. And I think just through that gave me a little bit more skills and like I guess muscle memory of doing it. So this was one example, but it was like there's like a few weeks of work that I was putting in every day for it. And so I think the biggest thing was like the shift, and hopefully this answers your question. I just felt like I was more in control. Like I was in control of the situation. And that those are like the thoughts that I had. It wasn't like this mystical force that comes in and like I have no power over it and I have to give into it. Like I didn't think I had control over urges or pornography or masturbation. And then I realized through coaching with you and like each day working on it, but that was like a culmination of work. It's
Yeah.
like training my mind that's like I have control over this. And whereas I think the difference between situations like hundreds of times in the past where I gave into that, it's like I never thought I had control.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does
Cool.
that answer your question?
Totally. Yeah. And for those of you who don't know who are listening, the thought model is one of the most awesome tools that we use through this process. We use it a lot because it works. Like what
Yeah.
Ben is saying is his experience of how it worked for him to just keep practicing with it, right? Like I like to think of like the Karate Kid and Mr. Miyagi, right? And how he like has him paint the fence and wax the car, and he's
Yeah.
like, I came to learn for karate from you, and Mr. Miyagi still has him do these chores, and then suddenly he starts attacking him, and Daniel uses the the movements from
Yeah.
all those chores he was doing to block, and he shows it how it applies. And the model is, I always think of that when I think of the model, like if you just keep practicing with it, you're going to be building with all the reps, you're going to be building new pathways in your brain, you're going to create an environment where your brain can shift and can actually change. And doing it with a coach is, I don't know if it's been this way for you, but for me, doing it with a coach versus by myself is very different. Both can be amazing. I like the combination of both a lot, but it's different doing it like in person with a coach who's experienced with it. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Um, I wasn't very familiar with the thought model before we met, but I just remember like because we had to do like I had to practice a few of them and send it to you and critique. And even though it's like it seems simple, I needed your coaching to help me to do it right. So yeah, definitely with a coach.
Yeah.
And I would say back like to go back to that situation, that story that I shared, like you had taught me it's like it's okay if you feel those cravings or it doesn't mean you're a bad person. And then I remember thinking that too. It's like whenever I had like those cravings, it didn't mean that I was sinning. Like I was just my body was doing what I trained it to do. And you taught me that. It's like, oh, you know, I feel stress or feel this, so this comes and this is how I react to it. So my body was working perfectly. And I remember thinking that too. It's like, yeah, like my body's doing exactly what I programmed it to do. And now I'm just trying to program it to do something else.
Yeah. So powerful. Love that. Okay. So then, uh, let's talk about this, right? Like you talk about how you loved that idea when we first met. Your life can be so good. What if your life can just be so good that porn's irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
What would it
Oh yeah.
take? And I love working with guys who love that idea because it just really fits with what this process can be. So could you tell me and us, all the listeners, what, because you did a lot of that. You made your life just so much better using these tools. So what changed after going through the process or during it? What specific results can you share? And not just maybe start with the habit change with porn. But then I know for you, we coached on a lot of other stuff too. And this is your time to just share. Like, what does life look like now that you're that problem and some of the other problems you brought up have been solved and shifted, changed, addressed? What do you have to say?
Yeah, well, I just want all the if the guys out there, um, so I do my own, I have my own business, and so I'm sure all the clients that work with you have a job in some aspect of their lives, but I look back and I think how much time of my life was wasted towards porn and masturbation, and probably more importantly, just like the regret and the shame of of like feeling like you suck, kind of being depressed about the past things that you've done. So I think the when I started like feeling like, hey, I'm in 100% control over this, um, it just freed up so much time for me and energy because it wasn't wasted on what I've done or like what I'm stuck in. It was more of like my energy was like for things in the future. Like, oh crap, okay, so this worst part of me now is fine and I love myself. So now I felt like I had no like I felt like I could do anything. And so I just felt like more confidence and more hope for my future. So it was just like the snowball was like just rolling. And then as we'd have our sessions, I mean, like you said, we talked about so many things. But I mean, a few of the things like boundaries that I had, like I was just starting this business and I was scared of being successful because my family didn't have much money. And so that was a holdup. I just remember I bought a vehicle and I didn't want to tell my family because I didn't want them to feel bad. So I kind of felt like I was like living in this shell. So I couldn't fully reach my potential because I was so scared of shining. And so that was um, that was one of the first things like we talked about. My business. I mean, good night. You gave me so much advice for my business, just like believing that like good things can happen, expecting good things to happen, and not being so. I think I was like worst case scenario kind of guy without realizing it because I thought I was an optimist, but then as it pertained to certain areas of my life, I was 100% worst case scenario guy, and so geez, I mean, we started talking about like pornography and masturbation, but it led to like confidence, hope in my future, like relationships with a few of my siblings, relationships with my father, um, and everything, every area of my life is better. And like if I look at myself now, like my life, I could not like it if if God or someone said, "How do you want your life to be next year?" and write it down, I couldn't. Uh, I don't cry that much, man, but um yeah, if God or someone said like write down your fears, like what's troubling you in your future, like what do you want to be, how do you want next year to go, I couldn't imagine it would be as good as it is right now. And yeah, I don't know if your other questions are going to allude to this, but I mean, as I've been working and people that I work with and even like my family and friends, they're like, hey, like what happened to you, like it's not that I like sucked before. So I still had friends and I still was like semi successful, but my belief is way different. I just feel like I'm in way more control over my life. But my life as a result of like working with you and like it that's why I say like you're my brother because like I love you so much. Like you helped me a ton. And I never thought it would be as good as it is right now going into it last year. And I mean, it's been a year and a half, and I feel like this, like it's awesome.
Yeah. Oh man, lots of love to you too. Thanks for sharing. Um, it's just amazing, amazing. Grateful I got to be a part of it and watch you learn to use your power and access your power in that way because it was all your power that created those changes, right? We just teamed up on looking at your brain together,
Yeah,
and that's what this process can be. And would you say it was like a big hard hustle type of effort to experience these changes, like when you compare it to how you used to try to change your habits? What would you say there?
not really. Um, I it was hard at first getting my mind around like the thought model and then kind of like digging into stuff. Like you're probing questions. Like your questions are like so so good, but it was like it was stuff. It was just like reframing how I viewed everything, and I think that was a little difficult at first. But like once you get that, then no, it was great. Like every time we met was awesome, and I like doing the work because I had I've seen results from it, and I was progressing. So it's like I play sports a lot, but it's like the sports that I love playing are the sports that I feel like I'm good at, and like the sports that I suck at, I don't really like playing. But it's like if you see improvement, then you're like, oh, I like this. This is fun. So that's how like I felt with you. It's like, oh, geez, okay, I'm getting this down, and I picked it up pretty fast, and I really liked it. Um, but I just kept seeing results, so I was getting confidence with it, and I loved it, and I liked how I feel like I feel like going back, I guess, to Mario. I feel like every time we were meeting, I was like picking up a feather, I was picking up fire, I was picking up ice, like I was picking up a tool every time that was helping my life,
Yeah.
like immediately helping my life.
Okay. Yeah, I remember you calling it like Danny Diamonds, or
Yeah,
there was something like every time we met or something.
every time there was a Danny Diamond, every time, and I couldn't find it by myself, so we had to team up to get it.
You could have. I think it can just be faster finding it with a coach. You could have found all that by yourself. I don't want to discount your power there, but it can be 10 times faster doing it with a coach.
Yeah,
It really
yeah,
can.
yeah. Yeah,
So
maybe to go back to Mario for the third reference, maybe you're the star to just help me just go way faster.
yeah, and then you're just running around, jumping higher, running faster, things bouncing off you. Yeah. Tell me, I'm curious specifically with your business. Actually, you mentioned business. How is this thought work and the work we did together? These tools that you've continued using them well after we've worked together. What are some real results you've experienced in your business and financially from using these tools?
Yeah. Um, I would say with business, one of the times we talked was about making decisions. 'Cause I remember I had this like business opportunity that you probably don't remember this, um, to buy into another business, and I was sick to my stomach to say no, and I didn't feel good about it, but I kind of wanted to do it, and then I thought I needed more time to make a decision. And you're like, hey, you can make any decision in like 1 minute. Like you just need to. People put it off big decisions. People put out big decisions because it's uncomfortable and they don't want to think about it. But if you just sit down, you can make a decision faster. If you make a decision faster, then you have more time. And then even if you go down the wrong route, you decide that you figure that out sooner than wasting all this time. So that was like one of the big things. I feel like I'm really fast at making decisions now for my business, and then expecting results. Because before I was like, oh geez, I hope money comes in. I hope this, and I was like, well, no, like this is the scenario that I want. Like this is what I'm expecting. These are the goals. So it's like it's changed like my focus and belief for my business in that regard. But I mean, my business is my like salary is doubled from last.
It's doubled. Okay,
Yeah, it's doubled.
that is awesome.
So I mean, so yeah, that's I mean, I'm just way more confident with stuff. And
Yeah.
so it show and it's funny, it's like people that I had worked with for a few years, like I don't know them that well, and they've when they've been with me, they've been like, hey, like what are you doing, man? Like what? And so I feel like I get that a lot. It's like people that have known me like for a few years or even like last year to now, they're like, hey man, like what? Are you reading something? Like what are you doing? And so that's cool because like I can see it in myself, but sometimes you don't see the progress as much. But when other people start noticing, then you're like, oh, geez, like.
Yeah.
And I remember one guy that I was working with last year or like earlier this year. He had a life coach, and he sat down and talked with me. He's like, hey, how long have you been meeting with a life coach?
He
And
just
I didn't say anything.
yeah.
And I
That's
was
awesome.
like, I'm like, yeah, man, yeah, for sure. He's the best. And then he's like, yeah, I can clearly tell, like just how you go about things. I can tell.
Join the
And so
club.
yeah, it's awesome.
Okay, so like in terms of what you invested in the coaching process with me and the money that you went and created with the tools you were incorporating into how you do business,
Oh yeah, no brainer.
more than made more than your
It was
money
a se
back.
yeah, yeah, Danny, working with you is I don't know if it's like the greatest decision I made in my life, but it's probably top 3 best decisions I made in my life. That's
Wow.
pretty good. That's a good testimonial.
That's that's all we need right there, people. Oh,
Yeah, but it helped in every aspect of my life. Like myself, my self-worth, my self like doubt, my self-love, my family, my relationships with my mom and my dad, my siblings, business, relationship with my friends, my relationship with the church. It helped everything.
well, I just think it's amazing to see what you did during our time together. And it's been what since we stopped working together? Almost a year or
Almost a year.
something like that. And to see what you've continued to create, incorporating these tools into your day-to-day life, it's just like an absolute joy to see and hear about and witness, and so fun to stay in touch with you. Thanks so much for doing this. I think your story is going to inspire so many people, because like Ben said, like, of course he's a really neat, unique guy, but he's not like, this isn't something that you can't, other people can't do too, right? It's not like you're just some
Yeah,
special guy who this only works for certain special type of people. Like, everyone has this power within them and this capacity within them, and this particular coaching method, when it's a good fit, can just help extract that power out so much,
yeah,
identify it, clarify it, and utilize it, channel it just in some incredibly awesome ways. And I just so excited for you, man. Grateful to know you and to see what you've been doing with your life. It's amazing.
yeah. Likewise. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate everything you've done for me.
Yeah. Anything you want to add before we sign off?
I would just kind of give a little, um, like advice for people that might sign up with
Sure.
you, or
Yeah.
I would just, I would just say, yeah, like schedule the free call with Danny, and you'll probably be nervous, like, oh, dude, I don't really want to talk about all this stuff. I would schedule a free call, and then if you feel like, I mean, for me, it was immediate. Like when I started talking with Danny, I was like, yeah, and like I said, I like this guy. Like he's a good guy. Um, if you feel that, and like Danny's cool, like he doesn't care if you don't work with him. Like if it's not a good fit, he won't work with you anyway. But if you feel like it's a good fit on your end, then just trust the process, and just I would say just go all in, and believe that it can work. And that was, I think that's probably one of the best things that helped me, is like I liked you, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do everything I can to make this work, because I believe the outcome, and yeah, it's better than what I thought.
Amazing. Thanks so much for saying that. All right, Ben. So glad you're here. We'll chat more later, but
Oh yeah,
appreciate you being here, and let's call it for today. You're the man.
cool. Thanks, Danny.
See ya.